Hello, welcome back. This is Gerald Bellena here of Hot Pixel Productions. We are now going to start looking at the power of adjustment layers. Now, adjustment layers are a whole bunch of parameters and adjustments that you can instantiate to adjust the image in a number of ways. You can adjust the contrast of it, the hue and color saturation, the levels, the vibrancy. You could turn it into a black and white image, etc., etc., etc. So we're going to take a look at that, but the real power of these adjustment layers is the way that they are used in conjunction with masking. So you can make an adjustment to this image on a layer, mask it out, and then paint back in just what it is you need from that adjustment. And that's what we're going to be doing in this video. And again, I have not been presumptuous that you will know where things like the layer palette is, the properties palette is, the histogram, because these are basically the three palettes that we're going to be using. I want to keep it really simple. Okay, now we're going to find these up here under window. I want to call up my histogram. That's going to just plop straight in there. I definitely want to call up my layers, because this is where all the action is going to be taking place. And I also, very importantly, want to bring up properties, which flew off over there, and here it is. Nothing to show here yet because we've not actually added an adjustment layer, but when we do, you'll see what happens down here. Now, what we can do here, if you want to keep things nice and tidy, we can dock these two, co-join these two palettes together just by nudging onto that. You see the little blue line appear there, just release, and that now has become co-joined to this floating palette here. And actually, I think in the next upcoming video I will be talking about how you can create your own custom workspace, so you can have all your floating palettes either together, not together, upside down. No, you can't actually have them upside down, but anyway, okay, let's get going here. So let's take a look at this image here. It's very flat, it's very dark, it's definitely underexposed, because what I was going for, no matter how sophisticated modern cameras are, they just cannot beat the human eye in terms of being able to assess and figure out high dynamic range. In as much as when I was standing there taking this picture, the foreground was was perfectly exposed, and this was a really lovely, moody, dark sky. But shooting, I wanted to get this as just one take. Shooting, when I got the foreground in exposure, or somewhat acceptable, the sky got completely blown out, and this is what's happening here. So in analyzing, and obviously, I mean, yeah, I know I could have taken, bracketed multiple exposures and then blended them together, which I'm going to do in an upcoming video. But right now, when I'm analyzing this, I'm making decisions and I'm making some choices. Definitely what I want to do here, and I definitely want to bring more contrast and more drama into this big fiery dawn sky over the Shawangunk Ridge and the Rondout Valley, which is close to where I live up here in New York State. So let's get cracking. Now, the other very, very important thing, and again, the huge power of adjustment layers, is that everything we're going to do to this image is going to be non-destructive. It's not going to harm in any way. It's not going to be on a pixel level. It's all going to be done as layer overlays. The objective, my objective now, is that I want to increase the contrast and drama in this sky. Now, in the previous videos, to throw on, you have to select that, to throw on just a regular good old layer mask, we would just come down here to this rectangle with a little hole put through it, and we'd pop one on there, and there's a transparent layer mask. Just undo that, because we don't want to do that. What we want to do is we want to come one right from this to the little half and half cookie icon here, which is what it kind of looks at. When I click and hold down on that, it releases the hoons. It releases all the possible adjustment layers that we can create here, and you can see there's quite a bunch: solid color, gradient, pattern, brightness, contrast, levels, curves, exposure, vibrance, hue, saturation. You get the message. There's quite a lot of these guys here. Now, what I want to do, I know that I can create some really nice drama just by simply creating a levels adjustment layer, which is what I'm going to do now. And when I do that, you can see now the properties panel comes alive, because it's now showing me that level adjustment, and I can start adjusting these layers by manipulating these pointers here. There's also another way oops, that's a good start, that we can make a dramatic change to this image, and that's simply going to be through changing the blending mode of this layer in terms of the way it sits over, lays over this base master image. Okay, right now it's set to normal. I'm now going to switch this over from a normal blending mode to a multiply blending load. Hello, blending load, that's better. And boom, you can see immediately, what's happened. But fear not, it's not a disaster. This, again, don't forget, this is an adjustment layer. This is just sitting over the top of your master base image here. You can toggle that off, you can turn that off by clicking on the eyeball icon here, putting it back on. Definitely too strong, we want to start muting that back. And we can do that by coming up here to the opacity slider. Let's reduce the overall opacity and start dialing back. Yeah, it's kind of getting interesting in terms of the sky, but yeah, for shizzle, this ain't doing too much for the foreground. It's the dark ages. But anyway, let me just switch that back over to normal, because again, what I want to do, I want to actually go back and do some manipulation down here and just explain very, very briefly what these pointers do along this visual representation of the levels within this image. Right, so let's take a look at what's going on down here with the parameters, or these pointers on this levels property dialog box. Basically what this, as I say, this is showing us a visual representation of the tonal range across the image, going from the darks, as indicated here on the left hand side with this pointer here, which is will affect all the shadows and the darks, moving to the right to the middle point. Well, yeah, you can probably imagine that's the midtones, so we'll just bring those down, play around with the midtones, always fun, to over here, which will control and manipulate and adjust all the highlights and the whites and the brights, etc, etc, etc. I think what I want to do, I want to set my white point, and in order to do that, if you can see this, the way this black is coming down, it's actually ramping off, and it's actually tapering off to nothing here. So there's a huge gap between the white point and where there's actually any information. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click and hold and start pulling this across to the left, just until the tip of that starts to get onto where that black starts to taper off, which is telling me that there's some actual tonal information there. So let's just leave it there for now, and let's just come back up here and just toggle that on and off. Yeah, okay, it's kind of lifted it a little bit, it's like taking that kind of like grey film off it a little bit, but as I say, I still really want to go to town on this dark sky. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add another levels adjustment layer, because what I now want to do is I want to start to bring down the midtones, down they come, and lift up those whites again, and you can start to see the contrast and the drama, and that's starting to enter into that sky there. But the flip side to that coin is, again, we're losing the foreground. So how do we address this? Well, this is where the power of masking comes in, because right now what we're seeing is that the reason why we're seeing globally on the stage all of this adjustment across all of this image is because we have a transparent layer mask attached to this adjustments layer. Now, if you remember from the first video that I produced, is this the mantra of white revealing, black concealing. Now, what I want to do here is I want to invert this layer mask, and I'm going to do that by pressing Command or Control I on my keyboard, flipping it over to black, and with white concealing, now white revealing, God, even I can't get it right, white revealing, black concealing, this now being changed to a black mask is completely hiding any visibility of that adjustment coming through for us to see. So now you're going to start to get your head around how the power of what we're going to be able to do here. We are now going to be able to select a brush either over here or by pressing the B key on the keyboard. I am going to check what opacity we're at. We are at full strength, 100%. That's going to be too. That's going to be too ham-fisted. That's going to be too much, too heavy. I want to start off gradual, because that's actually a pretty intense change to the contrast there. So I know I've got white, and I know that if I paint white across this canvas, targeting this layer mask, with white going across this layer mask, it's going to start to reveal that adjustment just into the areas where I'm painting. So I'm going to tap on the right square bracket key, that's one over from the P key on my keyboard, so I can bring that up to quite a big brush. I'm going to start off by hitting my number 4 key, which is going to change the opacity of this brush to 40%, and I'm going to start moving across. Now, well, let me just back that off to say like 20% at the top here, because that's getting very, very dark. I want to exercise a certain degree of subtlety here, and you can see what's happening. I'm starting to bring through, or let through, that adjustment, that contrast. Now I think what I'm going to do, and the goal here always with this kind of thing, particularly on a panoramic landscape like that, is to get a really nice transition between the sky and the horizon line. Now there's other ways, more advanced ways that we can do this with custom masks, which I will be showing you in an upcoming video, but for now we're just going to keep it loosey-goosey. We're just going to do some light painting. I like that expression, that it's like we're painting with light here. We're gradually burning through this layer mask. Let's option shift, sorry, no, not option shift, just option click, and have a look at what we're doing here. And you see the way, you know, with 20%, we're doing it nicely and subtly. We're not, you know, going out of the bull in a china shop, you know, making it completely white, so, you know, it probably look a little bit ridiculous. But I will up the ante a bit. I'm actually going to change. Actually, you have to make sure that you've clicked on the layer mask itself. If you've inadvertently clicked on the property, the levels adjustment, then when you come over to it, you're going to get the no way square icon here, because you obviously can't paint on the layer mask. Also, what you've got to be really careful about is something, I've done this so many times, trust me, that you've inadvertently, accidentally clicked onto the base master image, and you're thinking you're going to start painting onto the layer mask, and all of a sudden it's like, well, so let's make this 100%. It was going to, you know, it's like, ew, oh god, what about? And yeah, sure enough, you've been painting on the base layer instead of the layer mask itself. Well, okay, let's go up to Windows. God forbid we can bring up the History channel. What's the point? Where's it gone? Okay, come on. I know you're here somewhere. Oh, I'm sorry, it's on the screen next to me. Come on, guys. Come on, make an appearance. Don't be shy. Here it is. Okay, let me just back that off. Get rid of that. I'm going to cut a couple of notches off. So, actually, you know what? I'm just going to bung that on there. Okay, so back to where we were. Let's, again, I've got 100%. This is the 100% mask, and you can really see this is starting to come on full bore now. I'm going to go back to 50%, because as I say, I really want to just, you know, just very gently blend this all back in. I'm doing this very quickly, just because, as I say, I know you might have better things to do than watch me tiddle around with this all night long. But okay, let's just leave it there. I think you get the message. So there, we've been able to actually reveal the adjustment made by our properties down here by bringing down the midtones, bringing up the highlights and the lights to create a really nice contrast there. Now, let me just disable this by just, I think it's option clicking. No, it's not. No, that's just so that, I beg your pardon, my fault. I'm going mad. It's, sorry, yes, it's control click. Control click to bring up this this dialog box here, just to disable it, basically release it, turn it off. You can see without this mask in place, you know, this is the state it would be in. Not great. So let's turn that back on. Let's re-enable that and toggle it on and off so we can see again. So with one very, very simple adjustment layer and a pretty straightforward adjustment in terms of just upping the contrast, we have brought in a tremendous amount more drama into that sky, and it still seems to be, you know, sitting quite happily in terms of a believable image with this foreground. Anyway, so yeah, so that's terrific. So, and again, you know, if we find that, you know, it's still running too hot, then let's just dial back the opacity of the layer and knock it back a bit. You know, and there's lots of different ways that we can like decrease and increase the presence of or the amount of this adjustment that's coming through. Right, let's try something else here. Now let's take a look at this image. What can we do here? Well, I spy with my little eye something that begins with C. Yeah, I think it's going to be colour. I think I might have a go, have a pop at just boosting these colours within this daybreak, just to bring some more glow, and just to demonstrate another way of using a layer mask, an adjustment layer. So I'm going to click on this layer mask just to make sure it's active, because over the top of this I want to come down and I want to create a hue saturation layer. Hello, hue saturation here. Now, we look at the properties panel here, we can see that we can, with master selected here, we can boost the contrast, but it's gonna happen everywhere. It's boosting the entire colors everywhere in the images in entirety. Don't want to do that, and take that back to 0. I actually just want to begin to target the yellows. So what I need to do is just come under master, click on master, and actually target one of the specific colors. And as I said, in this case it's yellow. Now I know what's going to happen. We're going to get some groovy stuff going on in the sky, but we're going to start to get soylent green down here. It's kind of interesting actually, in any kind of like foliage grass situation, you'll be surprised, actually yellow, either reducing or increasing yellow, has much more effect in terms of the green than actually adjusting the green, if you see what I mean. Yellow plays a huge part in the luminance and brightness of foliage and stuff like that, to the point where it, you know, you see it so many times it just gets absolutely silly. I mean, it really just does look like radiation. So anyway, not to worry, because we know what we can do to fix that. We can just invert this layer mask, which I'm going to do now. Command Control I, knock that out. Got my brush 20%. I'm going to make that 50% by pressing the 5 key. I'm going to make sure, yeah, my foreground is set to white, which means that this brush has white loaded into it. I'm going to make sure I'm going to be painting onto my layer mask, not anything else like the actual base layer. And I'm going to start to paint over this multiple stroke just to start blending that back in. And you can see how that's starting to come over. It's actually bringing the red to life as well as it was, because obviously, you know, red, yellow, orange. But you can see how that's really brought in. Let's knock that back a little bit, tame that down a little bit, just by reducing the overall opacity. I don't know, 80 looks about good. Let's just toggle that on, toggle that off. What the heck, let's just give it a little bit more. Life's too short. Anyway, okay. So I've kind of been looking down here as well. I kind of really love the delicacy of these fern-like grasses here, but I kind of want to make them kind of pop a little bit more, just in the lights where you know they're just kind of like almost like reflecting in this morning glow. So can I instantiate another? Yes, you've guessed it. Levels adjustment layer. I want to keep it really simple in this. I'm going to be mainly using levels adjustments because, you know, it's so important for me that you just get the concept rather than worrying about whether we're changing vibrance, color balance, you name it. That's for further down the road, trust me. Right now, if you're at a beginner level, it's this concept that's the most important thing, that you begin to understand how to add these layers, how to use the adjustments and then mask them. Anyway, okay, so coming down to my properties, I know what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to switch over the blending load. I don't know why I can't say this. Blending mode from normal to screen. And I know if I'm going to do that, it's really going to lighten the whole show up. Yeah, there you go. That's not bad. But again, way too hot. So I'm just going to Command I, Control I, invert that. And given the intensity of that adjustment, I'm going to make sure I've got a very, very light brush. I'm going to type 1 and change the opacity to 10%. And I'm going to tap on the left square bracket key next to the P, bring that down, and I'm literally just going to start tapping almost on this. Alright, let's just up it to 20, otherwise we'll be here all night. Stroking, I'm just going to start to, yeah, gotta be careful. Well, white reveals, black conceals. All I need to do is hit the X key on my keyboard to toggle that back, so now my brush is filled with 20% black, and I can just dial that back just by, again, painting black to conceal it. White reveals, black conceals. Okay, let's toggle back to white. Be a little less ham-fisted. I am going to take that down to 10% by hitting the 1 number key on here. And I'm just going to start brushing. I'm just going to start touching, kissing these things. Metaphorically, of course. Because God knows where they've been. And maybe I'm just going to bring a little bit. Whoa, cool your jets. Just brighten it up around here, because this is where the sun is kind of starting to fall, and don't mind it being too dark here because it is ramping off into, you know, slight darkness. Let's maybe just make it a little bit smaller. Let's just bring these little shrubs to life a little bit more. You don't have to be too, detailed at this juncture. We'll get to much more precise and detailed masking in upcoming videos. Just about there. Let's see what we've got here. Let's just toggle that on and off, see what we've done. Yeah, okay. Yeah, this is kind of looking a bit weird, so I think what I'll do is I'll switch back to black, and I'll just dial that back by painting black now onto that layer mask, because it's what it's selected. As I say, that's why it's so important. You must make sure you're not painting on here, because this is the beauty of it. This is totally non-destructive, because I'm actually painting in reality on this mask, so I can paint black on there just to dial that back a little bit. So let's just toggle that on and off. There you go. Alright, let's just bring the opacity down a little bit. Yeah, okay. Okay, well, certainly not an award winner, but I think it does the job in being able to, hopefully help you get your head around the concept of what you can do with adjustment layers. So, what have we got here? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We just got 4 very simple adjustment layers. Now, if I come down to this eyeball icon here on the master and option click on it, it'll hide all these adjustment layers. So, if I click back on it again, it'll turn them on. So you can see, very, very, very quickly and relatively simply, we can go even just from that to something more like that. And then, you can spend all night noodling around with, trust me, yeah, I think I mean, it could go on forever. But anyway, I think that's enough for now, and I hope that you have now going to walk away from this understanding now the concept of masking and the role it plays in adjustment layers to be able to make targeted adjustments to specific areas or specific parameters in an image in a non-destructive way, and that you can then be selective about which part of that adjustment you want to reveal and actually be part of the picture. Okay, well, thanks for watching. I am going to be busily working on the next few videos where we're going to delve deeper into more sophisticated masking, most notably luminosity and channel masking, and creating our own custom masks for even more targeted and precise adjustments to image processing. So again, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.